All right. Welcome, everyone. And I am so excited to be here with you today. I'm Didi Kai. I am the founder of Fit to Profit. And with Wealth being our show today, we are going to focus on talking about how to generate profit while creating impact. And with me today is a very special guest. She is an author, a certified adult nurse practitioner, and an ICF-Certified Wellness Coach. She's the founder of the Schools of Wellness as well, a group of practitioners dedicated to inspiring and providing practical tools to organizations and individuals to enable them to choose, practice, and promote well-being. Welcome, Dr. Eileen O'Grady. Thank you so much for joining on our show today.
Thank you, Didi. Great to be here.
Awesome. So let's dive right into it. Share with us, please, like what got you into from being a nurse practitioner and now a wellness coach? What brought you into this world of coaching, and how did it all started for you?
Yeah, well, I think, so much of it is around a pain point. I was living a life that I wasn't in integrity. I wasn't doing a lot of the things I was asking my patients to do. I was eating terribly. I wasn't exercising. I was super stressed out, drinking too much. I mean, the whole thing, driving too fast. And I just had, pretty much of a midlife swan dive into a very dark place. And I just realized that if I was going to live a long life, I needed to live really differently. And it wasn't just going to be a pill or a patch, that I was going to have to fundamentally change my lifestyle. Because, as you know, Didi, so much of what I was seeing in the clinical practice, the clinical space, was people having a lot of disability and early deaths and limitations because of the daily things that they were doing or not doing. Kind of, what was happening on their couch, what was on their fork, what was the sort of the daily habits. And we often think of healthcare as just, when you go in and have a visit or you interface with the healthcare system. That is not a good way to rely on staying healthy for most things. So what's really hurting us in our country and our ability to contribute and have impact is our health. And our ability to live a long, healthy life where we're fundamentally feeling well and doing what we want to do into our old age. So I had to get right with that relationship.
Wow. And so it's interesting you said how it has to always start with the pain, right? Like something has to happen. And so the reason why I know you do what you do, and I know the why I wanted to really put out this show, is to really allow people to know that you don't have to wait until when something breaks, right? And when it comes to health and wellness, and especially running a business and such like that, that is ultimately a really long game, right? Like it's a long-term lifestyle change and habit that, one can create. So talk to us about your book, honestly, like choosing health, like what does that really mean? And share with us more about what you share in the book.
Yeah, well, some of it was just, my origin story and the role I played in my family was, I was 11 when I decided I have to be a nurse. It was a decision made for me. I mean, it was like I was a hawk and picked up and carried. A hawk picked me up and carried me to this destiny. I never made a decision. It was made for me. And I was the caretaker, like a lot of women in the family, where we just see somebody in need and we just step in without being asked. There's a lot of rewards baked into that role. I got lots of strokes and I was sort of the fixer, and I would sort of carry all of the problems of other people, mostly that were self-inflicted, and so that I had to really get clear on what was my problem and what was theirs, and what's my lane and what's somebody else's lane. So I think a story can save a life, a well-told story that is heard at the right time. And so I made this sort of series of essays about the struggles that I had and what I learned from those stories. And so what's been so interesting to me is I write about this one story. It's not a pretty situation at all, where I discovered I was envious of an 8-year-old, my son at the time. Everything came easy, and I was a much scrappier student. And so I was talking to somebody who read the book, and she said, she doesn't have any children, but she notices that when she hires employees, and they start to kind of outshine her, she kind of clips their wings. And so it was the same dynamic, but it was in an employer-employee situation. So I like to think that the stories in the book have this kind of timeless application to lots of different situations. While they're very specific to me, I think lots of people can identify, when they might feel threatened by somebody coming up the ladder behind them, or somebody that's outshining them. And when we're aware of that, we can do something about it. So much of this, Dee Dee, is about really being aware of how are we throwing obstacles in our own way. I mean, that's a lot of it about, do I have enough energy to do what I want to do? Am I sleeping? I talk a lot about establishing bedrock behaviors. So these are the things that we all learned in kindergarten, and most of us aren't doing. The things that we don't want to be negotiating with anybody about, mostly ourselves, on a foundation of sleep, eating food that your grandmother would recognize, moving your body, having a good tribe of people, like not having a lot of toxins around you, having some curated content that you allow into your life, so you're not just a news junkie watching horrible news day in and day out, and having fun in our lives, and joy, and experiencing joy. So we can, build and design our lives however we want. And I think we can't get very far without these bedrock behaviors.
Yes. And now that you're a wellness coach, talk to us a little bit about what you do now. And is it any different than what you used to do? Or are you really able to incorporate from your past experience into what it is that you do now? I'm curious to know.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly understand when people feel that they're often stuck in some self-defeating behavior, and I really understand that. And there's a lot of people that are despairing right now. And so I have the clinical picture. Like, what I get concerned about when people will contact me and say, my physician told me I'm going to be dead in 5 years. Like, I get those kinds of calls. Like, if they don't do something, they're heading towards a really dark place. And so I understand the clinical picture, but rather than writing prescriptions, I really see my job as a way to get people off actually prescriptions. I mean, not that we need medicines are super important, hear me out, but it's more about, and not the psychiatric meds, but more like people are sliding into diabetes and metabolic syndrome. And what can we do, with food and mindset and movement to make sure that our bodies never host a chronic illness, so that chronic illness just moves right on by and doesn't land on us, that we don't host a chronic illness, a preventable chronic illness. And that's how I see my job now, is talking to people about, just imagine it's 2 years from now and you've lost 100 pounds and you're living this different kind of life. What does that do for you? I start to get them to talk and imagine what their life would be without all these limitations. And that's a really beautiful thing. It's very different. It's a conversation, and it's also, a coaching conversation where I'm just asking them questions and thinking of them as the expert, and I'm not the expert. They're the expert on them. What's getting in the way? So if you're stuck in an overeating pattern, what's eating you? So what's so much of us are emotional eating or binging. So to try to clear out all those obstacles and name them one by one, and get people to start living the life that they want, because so many people can see it and they can describe it, but they just can't get their body to follow. And so that's the work that I do. So it's very different, but it's very much public facing and facing people, and not being afraid of getting deep and really deep, and witnessing, and so holding a container so people can really get to understand themselves. I mean, Dee Dee, and you probably know this in your work too, that so much of it is know thyself, really know thyself, almost like a stalker, stalk yourself and really get to understand your moods and what's driving you into destructive or self-defeating behaviors.
Yes, yes, yes. I have a coach that taught me this years ago, that I have to be onto myself. Right. Like, I can slip into the old behaviors or the old habits. So unless I'm onto myself, I'm not going to allow myself to come off of the wagon. So let's switch gears a little bit, and let's talk about, where do you see, being, of course, a nurse practitioner and now a wellness coach, where do you see the future of health and wellness?
It's a good question. I think like there won't be any clinical settings, particularly in the primary care space, internal medicine, that won't have skillful coaches in it. Because, we can write lots of prescriptions for lots of things, but what's really going to keep us healthy, not for all things, obviously, but for so much of what's killing us in this country is lifestyle. So I think that clinicians are going to get much more skillful about how we talk to people. And I also think, we could probably do a better job with the nanny state. And what I mean by that is, there are some companies that when you go to their cafeteria, they charge $8 for a chocolate chip cookie, but the fish and the broccoli is greatly reduced. Like, flip it. Because right now, toxic food is really cheap, and to eat healthy, you have to spend more money. And so I could see us aligning our foreign policy with our health policy, which that would be a really great start in the future.
Oh my
That's what I see happening.
That's so great. And I am definitely hopeful and optimistic. And this is exactly why I do what I do. And having you on this show, that's another added hope to this whole system that we have. I really, truly see that, because honestly, the true share is the other day, my daughter actually came home and told me that they actually had they have sliced cucumbers. They didn't have that when I was in school. They had packaged things, but now there's actually vegetables, there are carrots, there are other things. So just like you, I think I'm very hopeful, and I can see the direction of where everything is going. It's people are, of course, being definitely more aware of what's happening as well too. So last but not least, considering that, we talk about taking care of ourselves and being a high performer, how would you connect that to being profitable from yourself and for yourself, but at the same time creating impact in the world?
Yeah, it's a beautiful question, Dee. I mean, so much of it is around reaching our fullest potential, and we have to be healthy. And so what I say is that we don't want to show up to the thing. If we want to make an impact in the world, we need to be fed, watered, and rested. We can't be showing up to this work on fumes. In order to be impactful, we have to make sure that we have a generous heart, and we have the energy to do, to fix the thing that we want to fix, to impact what we want to impact. And we can't neglect that. It just cannot be pushed to the side. To me, it's front and center for you to reach your potential.
Yeah. If you have any last minute parting remarks, and if they want to really get on board with having that ultimate lifestyle where they're well and happy and creating the impact of the world, what would that be? And last but not least, how can the audience find you?
Well, I have a wellness pearl I send out less than once a month, and it's pretty edgy and popular. And it's just a short, brief reminder of some of these ideas about how to stay well and be well. So I would start there. And I really think, like, the kind of the two words, that the tagline of this book is save yourself. That sometimes it's easier to focus on other people's problems or other people, but it really starts with you taking excellent care of yourself, so that chronic illness does not land on you. Because some of these diseases are really, really destructive to our organs and our life and our brains and everything. So I want everybody to reach their full potential, because there's enough problems in the world. We need you.
Awesome. All right. Well, you have it. There's Dr. Eileen O'Grady with her book. Please look for it. And they can find that on Amazon. Yes.
Any bookseller. Yes.
Any bookseller. Okay. And thank you for all that you do and all that you are, and for inspiring me today to stay in my course, stay on my journey. And again, thank you so much for your time. It's been an honor.
Thank you, Dee Dee, for all you do. Thank you so much.